Stop. Do not move forward in your thoughts. Do not let fear or curiosity rush you past this moment. Breathe once. Slowly. Because what I am about to speak was not released to satisfy emotion. It was released to restore order. I am speaking now as an archangel under the authority of God, not to glorify suffering, not to celebrate downfall, but to reveal why protection moved when it did. What unfolded was not random. It was not luck. And it was not caused by your actions. It was the exposure of something hidden. For a long time, there was a woman operating quietly around your life. Not always visibly. Not always directly. She smiled when necessary. She blended in when needed. She spoke softly while her intentions moved in darkness. This was not coincidence. This was calculation. Heaven saw it long before you did. God sees plans before they are completed. He sees thoughts before they become actions. And what she was forming was not harmless. It was not misunderstanding. It was intentional harm rooted in jealousy, resentment, and a desire to interfere with what was never hers to touch. You were not paranoid. You were discerning. But you were never meant to fight this yourself. This woman did not attack you openly because she could not. Your light made direct confrontation impossible. So she chose the hidden route. Subtle manipulation. Quiet interference. Emotional contamination. Spiritual disturbance. She believed that if she could weaken you indirectly, she could alter outcomes without being seen. But heaven does not miss what humans overlook. God allowed observation before intervention. This is important for you to understand. God does not stop every evil thought immediately, because free will reveals intent. And intent determines consequence. Her intent crossed a line. She moved from jealousy into sabotage. From bitterness into planning. From resentment into action. And the moment she decided to cause irreversible damage, damage not just to you, but to what God has assigned to your life, authority shifted. Jesus stood as witness. Not in anger. In justice. Because when someone attempts to interfere with destiny, not just emotion, heaven responds differently. This was not about feelings. This was about assignment. You carry something she wanted to interrupt. Not because she wanted your life, but because she could not tolerate your protection. Light exposes insecurity. And insecurity, when left unchecked, turns destructive. What she did not understand is this: evil does not need to be attacked to collapse. It only needs to lose divine permission. And the moment God withdrew permission from her plan, it began to turn inward. Not outward. Inward. This is how backfire works in the spiritual realm. The energy she sent out did not disappear. It returned to its source without guidance, without control, without protection. What was meant to destabilize you destabilized her instead. Her strength failed suddenly. Not as punishment. As consequence. One moment she believed she was in control. The next, her body betrayed her illusions of power. Systems weakened. Stability vanished. Control slipped out of her grasp faster than she could comprehend. And for the first time, she realized she was no longer the one watching. She was the one exposed. Understand this clearly: God did not strike her. God removed the shield from her intention. There is a difference. Justice is not cruelty. Justice is allowing truth to return to its origin. Now she is confined. Not just physically, but internally. Stripped of strategy. Stripped of influence. Stripped of the ability to manipulate outcomes. In isolation, pride collapses quickly. And when pride collapses, fear rushes in. She is afraid now. Not of you. Of consequence. She is realizing that what she touched was protected. That what she mocked was covered. That what she tried to distort was anchored in something far above her reach. This realization is heavier than any physical limitation she is facing. And this is where many misunderstand heaven. This moment is not about revenge. This moment is about revelation. Jesus does not abandon people even when they face consequences. He allows awareness to surface. And awareness is painful for those who have lived without accountability. She is being confronted not by accusation, but by memory. Every intention. Every whisper. Every silent wish of harm is now loud inside her own mind. That is why she is begging. Not for victory. Not for advantage. Not for power. She is begging for relief. Because when manipulation is stripped away, the soul is forced to face itself. And what she sees now is not flattering. She sees how far she went. How unnecessary it was. How her own insecurity created a collapse she never imagined would touch her body. You must hear this next part carefully so your heart stays clean. You are not being asked to celebrate this. You are not being asked to feel superior. You are being asked to release it. Because your protection is already complete. God did not intervene so you could carry bitterness. God intervened so you could continue forward without contamination. What happened to her is not your responsibility. It is not your burden. And it is not your story to carry. Jesus teaches mercy, but mercy does not mean interruption of justice. Mercy means you are not required to hold hatred in your heart. You are not required to replay what almost happened. You are not required to remain alert for an attack that no longer has permission. The threat is neutralized. Not temporarily. Completely. The plan collapsed at its root. There is nothing left to resurrect. No hidden continuation. No delayed effect. What was meant for harm has already returned to its sender and finished its cycle. Heaven has closed the door. What remains now is for you to step forward without looking back. God protected you because your path continues. There are things ahead of you that require clarity, not fear. Strength, not vigilance. Peace, not suspicion. Carrying this situation forward would weigh you down unnecessarily. Release does not excuse her actions. Release frees you. Jesus is restoring balance now. Removing residue. Clearing emotional fog. Re-establishing peace where disturbance tried to linger. You may feel lighter soon. Calmer. Less alert. That is not denial. That is safety returning. This message is not meant to shock you. It is meant to settle you. You were seen. You were covered. You were defended without lifting a hand. That is how divine protection works. Remain steady. Remain humble. Remain focused on what is ahead. This is not the end of the revelation. But it is the end of the threat. Stay grounded. Stay still with me. Do not let emotion pull you into judgment or curiosity. This part is about understanding, not reaction. After the collapse began, after the plan lost its protection and turned inward, something very specific happened in the unseen realm. What you witnessed on the surface was only the echo. The real shift took place quietly, precisely, and with order. When evil crosses a boundary, heaven does not respond with chaos. Heaven responds with containment. The moment her intention moved from bitterness into deliberate harm, a line was crossed that cannot be uncrossed by apology or denial. Not because God is harsh, but because protection has rules. And she violated them knowingly. You need to understand this clearly. She was warned internally before anything happened. Warnings do not always come as voices or signs. Sometimes they come as discomfort. As hesitation. As a sudden feeling to stop. As an inner resistance that says, do not go further. She felt that resistance. She ignored it. She pushed past it because she believed herself untouchable. That belief was her greatest mistake. Power without permission always collapses. When God withdrew permission from her actions, the spiritual structure holding her together weakened instantly. This did not happen slowly. It was immediate. The strength she relied on, mental, emotional, physical, began to fail in coordination. One weakness triggered another. Control slipped. Stability cracked. This is not punishment. This is exposure. What she was operating with was never sustainable. It was fueled by obsession, resentment, and comparison. Those energies burn hot, but they burn out quickly. When divine restraint is removed, they consume the vessel carrying them. That is what you are seeing now. Her environment changed. Her body reacted. Her confidence vanished. And for the first time, she realized she was not in charge. You must understand the difference between judgment and consequence. Judgment is imposed. Consequence returns. What returned to her was not what she imagined it would be. She thought harm would land softly somewhere else and never touch her. She believed she could orchestrate outcomes from a distance and remain unaffected. But spiritual law does not work that way. What you release must pass through you first. That truth cannot be bypassed. Now she is in a place where distraction is gone. No audience. No influence. No manipulation. Just stillness. And in stillness, truth is loud. She cannot escape her thoughts. She cannot redirect blame outward. There is no one left to deceive. That is why she is begging now. Not because she wants forgiveness from you, but because she is afraid of herself. She is confronting parts of her nature she never wanted to acknowledge. Envy, control, spite. The desire to see someone else fall just to feel powerful for a moment. Those realizations are more frightening than her physical condition. This is where many misunderstand what is happening. This is not about you being saved while she is punished. This is about roles being corrected. You were never meant to carry the weight of someone else's envy. You were never meant to defend yourself against unseen sabotage. You were meant to walk forward freely, focused, unburdened. God intervened to restore that order. Jesus does not delight in collapse. But he also does not interrupt truth when it arrives. He allows awareness to do its work. Awareness is uncomfortable, but it is also the only door to repentance. Whether she walks through that door is not your concern. Your concern is separation. Separation of her actions from your identity. Separation of her intent from your future. Separation of her outcome from your emotional space. You do not benefit from holding this. Heaven already handled it. There is something important you must hear now so your heart stays clean and your spirit stays light. Do not attach meaning to her suffering beyond this. It stopped the harm. That is all you need to know. Do not speculate. Do not replay scenarios. Do not imagine alternate endings. Those mental loops are not discernment, they are residue. And residue is what this message is meant to remove. God does not protect you halfway. When protection moves, it finishes its work. The plan did not just fail. It was dismantled. There is no continuation. No delayed effect. No second attempt forming. Everything tied to her interference has been neutralized at the root. What remains is your forward path, now cleared of obstruction. You may notice changes in your own inner state during this phase. A sense of calm that feels unfamiliar. A drop in vigilance. Less scanning of your environment. That is not carelessness. That is safety returning. When a threat is removed, the body relaxes before the mind understands why. Trust that response. It is accurate. You no longer need to guard against something that no longer has access. God is restoring your sense of ease. Jesus is lifting the weight you did not even realize you were carrying. The low-level tension. The subtle pressure. The feeling that something was off without proof. That feeling was not imaginary, but it is no longer relevant. It served its purpose. Now it can leave. This is also a moment of instruction. Not to make you suspicious of others, but to sharpen your discernment without fear. You are learning the difference between intuition and anxiety. Between warning and obsession. Between awareness and control. These lessons will protect you going forward without hardening you. You do not need to build walls. You already have boundaries. And heaven respects boundaries it establishes. What happened to her is not a victory for you. Your victory is freedom from involvement. You walk away clean, unentangled, unburdened. That is the outcome God intended. Jesus teaches that peace is a sign something has been handled properly. If you feel peace growing, even quietly, that is confirmation. Not denial. Confirmation. Let the story end where heaven ended it. Do not carry it further. Your life is moving forward now without interference. Without shadow. Without unseen resistance. What opens next will open smoothly, not with struggle. Remain grounded. Remain humble. Remain unattached. The matter has been settled. What comes next is not about her at all. It is about you. Remain with me. Do not let curiosity pull you backward. This part is about closure, not continuation. After containment came exposure, and after exposure came something even more decisive: removal of access. This is the phase most people never see, yet it is the most important one. Once the plan collapsed and the source was contained, heaven moved to secure your path completely. Not emotionally. Not symbolically. Practically. Spiritually. Permanently. You need to understand this clearly so nothing unsettles you later. What was removed was not just her influence. What was removed was her ability to reach you at all. Access is the real danger, not intention. Many people carry ill will, but few have access. This woman believed she had access, through proximity, through information, through influence, through emotional leverage. That belief empowered her actions. Once access was revoked, her power ended instantly. God does this quietly. No announcement. No confrontation. No spectacle. Just separation. Her world and your world are no longer intersecting on any meaningful level. Even if names appear, even if memories surface, even if external reminders exist, the connection that allowed interference is gone. Severed. This is why you may feel strangely detached now. Why thoughts of her do not land the way they used to. Why emotional reactions fail to ignite. That is not numbness. That is disconnection. Heaven has cut the cord. Jesus teaches that when something harmful is removed, peace replaces vigilance. You no longer need to stay alert, because there is nothing left to guard against. The door is closed. The corridor is sealed. The assignment she tried to disrupt is back under full protection. This is also why her situation feels final. Not because of punishment, but because consequence has completed its cycle. Cycles end when their lesson is delivered. Her lesson is not your responsibility to interpret. But you should know this much: she is no longer focused on you. Fear has redirected her attention inward. Survival has replaced sabotage. When someone is forced to confront themselves, obsession with others dissolves. That chapter is closed. Now hear this carefully, because this part protects you. Do not attach spiritual meaning to her suffering beyond what has already been revealed. Do not assume it continues to serve a purpose connected to you. It does not. Its purpose ended the moment access was removed. Anything beyond that belongs to her journey, not yours. God does not bind people together through harm. He separates them. You were separated. Cleanly. Completely. And now heaven turns its attention fully back to you. This is the part many people misunderstand. They think divine intervention ends with stopping the threat. But that is only the first step. The second step is restoration. You are entering restoration now. Restoration does not look dramatic. It looks normal. Your sleep improves. Your thoughts slow down. Your body relaxes. You may notice clarity returning to decisions that felt foggy before. Motivation stabilizing. Creativity resurfacing. These are signs that interference has been removed. When pressure leaves, life flows again. This is not coincidence. God restores what was interrupted. Jesus does not only rescue people from danger, He restores what danger disrupted. The confidence you lost, the peace that was unsettled, the sense of direction that felt delayed, all of that begins to realign now. Not overnight. Naturally. Because nothing is forcing against you anymore. Your path is clear. There is also something else happening that you should be aware of, not to fear, but to understand. You are being repositioned. When interference is removed, heaven often adjusts positioning so it cannot reoccur. That may mean distance from certain environments. Shifts in relationships. Changes in routines. Not loss, realignment. Do not resist these changes. They are protective. You are not being isolated. You are being placed correctly. This is why some connections may feel less relevant now. Why certain conversations feel empty. Why your tolerance for subtle manipulation has dropped. That is not hardness. That is discernment sharpening without fear. God does this to prepare you for what is next. Because what is next requires clarity. Your destiny was not delayed by her actions. It was guarded through them. This is an important distinction. Nothing she attempted altered the timeline God set for you. It only revealed where protection was needed, and protection has now been fortified. What comes next will arrive without resistance. Smoothly. Cleanly. Without opposition. You may feel a sense of relief you cannot explain logically. Trust it. Relief is the body's response to safety. Safety is the spirit's confirmation that danger has passed. It has passed. There will be no resurgence. No return. No echo. God closed this door fully. Now let me give you final instruction for this phase. Do not look back to confirm closure. Do not seek signs that it is really over. Do not measure peace. Peace is already present. Looking back reopens mental doors that heaven has sealed. Not because they can be breached, but because they can distract you. And distraction is the only thing that could still slow you down. Move forward without explanation. You own no one understanding. You own no one forgiveness statements. You own no one access. Your release is enough. Jesus teaches that when a matter is settled, the faithful move on. They do not stand at the door that was closed. They walk toward the one that is opening. A door is opening for you now. Not because of what happened to her, but because of what was preserved in you. Your peace. Your focus. Your alignment. This story no longer includes her. It includes restoration. Remain grounded. Remain clean in heart. Remain forward-facing. This phase is complete. Stay with me. Do not let the mind wander toward satisfaction or judgment. This part is about resolution, not reaction. After access was removed and restoration began, heaven moved into the final corrective phase. This is the phase where balance is restored not only by separation, but by closure of authority. Authority is what allows influence to linger. When authority is revoked, the story ends. This is what happened next. What she lost was not only strength. She lost standing. Standing is the unseen permission that allows a person's words, thoughts, and intentions to travel. When standing is removed, even thoughts lose reach. Even resentment loses traction. Even obsession falls silent. God closed that channel. And when channels close, the soul finally understands consequences without confusion. This is why her begging changed in tone. She is no longer begging for outcomes. She is no longer begging for reversal. She is no longer begging to win. She is begging for mercy in the most basic form. Mercy to breathe without fear. Mercy to rest without guilt. Mercy to escape the weight of her own awareness. This is not humiliation. This is awakening. Awakening that comes too late to affect you, but right on time to stop her. Jesus does not abandon people in moments like this. He does something far more exact. He removes illusion. Illusion is what allowed her to believe she could interfere without consequence. Illusion is what fed her confidence. Illusion is what blinded her to boundaries. Now illusion is gone. What remains is truth, raw, heavy, unavoidable. Truth does not accuse. Truth reveals. And what is being revealed to her now is not your power, but her misuse of intent. That is why this moment feels crushing to her. Not because she was stopped, but because she sees herself clearly for the first time. You must understand this so your heart remains clean. Her suffering is not entertainment. It is instruction. Instruction for her, not for you. Your lesson was protection and release. Her lesson is accountability and humility. These lessons are not shared. This is why heaven separated you completely before this phase intensified. You were never meant to witness it. Never meant to carry it. Never meant to interpret it. Your role ended when access was removed. Now comes the final seal. God is restoring order. Order means that every effect returns to its proper owner. What she created stays with her. What you carry stays with you. There is no overlap. No bleed through. No lingering connection. That is order. You may notice now that even curiosity about her condition fades quickly. That is not lack of compassion. That is disengagement. Compassion does not require connection. It requires boundaries. Jesus models this perfectly. He heals without entanglement. He forgives without exposure. He restores without revisiting harm. You are being taught the same pattern. Release does not mean involvement. Mercy does not mean access. Awareness does not mean responsibility. Your responsibility ended when protection completed its work. There is something important happening inside you now. Your nervous system is recalibrating. When someone lives under subtle interference, even unknowingly, the body adapts to tension. Once that tension is gone, the body must relearn ease. This can feel unfamiliar at first. Almost empty. Almost quiet in a way that feels strange. That is normal. Do not fill that quiet with analysis. Let it be. God is re-establishing peace at a foundational level. Not emotional peace, structural peace. The kind that allows your life to move forward without resistance. The kind that opens doors smoothly. The kind that aligns timing without effort. This is the outcome heaven intended all along. Not her collapse. Your clarity. You were never meant to fight. You were never meant to confront. You were never meant to prove anything. You were meant to be untouched. And you are. There will be no return of this matter in another form. No lesson repeating. No new face carrying the same energy. God does not remove something only to reintroduce it differently. When He closes fully. If you ever feel a moment of sympathy or prayer rise in you, keep it simple. Do not attach emotion. Do not attach story. Simply release peace and move on. That is enough. Anything more invites entanglement. Jesus teaches that prayers can be short and clean. Let truth do its work. That is sufficient. Now your attention is being redirected forward. You may feel an urge to reorganize your life. Clean spaces. Clear schedules. Simplify plans. That urge is alignment. When interference leaves, the soul instinctively creates room for what comes next. Honor that instinct. Do not rush to fill the space. Do not demand clarity immediately. Do not force momentum. Momentum will return naturally. This phase is about settling. Settling into safety. Settling into trust. Settling into forward motion without fear. What is coming next does not require vigilance. It requires availability. Availability to peace. Availability to growth. Availability to life without obstruction. Heaven has finished its intervention. What remains now is your walk forward, unburdened, unobserved, and uninterrupted. Remain grounded. Remain unattached. Remain focused ahead. This chapter is closing cleanly. The final seal is already in place. Remain with me for these final words. Not to reopen the story, but to close it completely and correctly. What comes now is not about her condition, her fear, or her pleading. Those details no longer matter, and heaven is not asking you to carry them. What matters is the seal that has been placed over your life and the direction you are now meant to face. This is the end of the interference. Not paused. Not reduced. Ended. When God resolves a matter like this, He does not leave loose threads. He does not leave emotional residue for you to manage later. He completes the work in a way that allows you to move forward without looking over your shoulder, without bracing yourself, without scanning for signs. That is what has happened. The authority that once tried to press against your life has been removed, and with it, the need for vigilance. You are no longer in a defensive posture spiritually, emotionally, or mentally. The season of "something feels off" has passed. The sense of disturbance that lingered without explanation has been answered and dismissed. Jesus restores peace this way, not by stirring emotion, but by restoring order. Order is quiet. Order feels like clarity without effort. Order feels like decisions becoming easier. Order feels like sleep coming without tension. You may notice this settling in already. This is not relief because someone else is suffering. This is relief because you are safe. Heaven does not celebrate collapse. Heaven celebrates containment. The purpose was never to harm another, it was to stop harm from continuing. And that purpose has been fulfilled without you lifting a hand, speaking a word, or carrying anger in your heart. That is protection done properly. Now hear this clearly, because it is the final instruction for this chapter: do not revisit this story in your mind. Not to analyze. Not to make sense of it. Not to check whether it is truly finished. Revisiting is how people reopen doors that God has already sealed. Not because the danger returns, but because peace gets delayed. Peace has arrived. Honor it by moving forward. If a thought of her ever surfaces again, do not push it away with force and do not dwell on it with curiosity. Simply let it pass like something you no longer recognize as relevant. That is not denial. That is closure. Closure does not require understanding everything. Closure requires trusting that heaven handled what you could not see. And it did. Your life is now under a different atmosphere. One where progress does not meet resistance. One where clarity replaces confusion. One where your energy is no longer siphoned by unseen opposition. This is why what comes next will feel lighter. Opportunities will not feel heavy. Relationships will not feel draining. Decisions will not feel foggy. You are stepping into a season where things move forward without friction. That is not coincidence. That is alignment restored. God protected you because your path matters. Because what you are building, becoming, and moving toward is not meant to be disrupted by envy, manipulation, or hidden hostility. Your assignment requires peace, not vigilance. And peace has been granted. Jesus has removed the residue. The emotional static. The background pressure. What remains is clarity and forward motion. There is nothing more for you to do about this situation. No forgiveness rituals. No conversations. No explanations. Silence is the correct ending. Not silence born of fear, silence born of completion. This chapter does not end with victory over someone else. It ends with freedom for you. Freedom to live without interference. Freedom to trust your discernment without paranoia. Freedom to move forward without dragging a shadow behind you. That is the true outcome heaven intended. Stand up now in your life. Turn your attention fully ahead. Receive peace without questioning it. What was meant to harm you has been stopped at the root. What was meant to distract you has been removed. What was meant to weigh you down no longer has access. This matter is closed. Walk forward clean. Walk forward calm. Walk forward unburdened. Heaven has finished its work here. Stay with me one final time, not to reopen what has already been sealed, but to anchor you fully into what comes after. What you are entering now is not a reactionary phase. It is a reclaimed life phase. When interference is removed and order is restored, heaven does not leave a vacuum. God fills cleared space with direction, strength, and calm purpose. That is what is happening around you now, quietly and steadily. You may notice that your days feel simpler. Not emptier, simpler. Decisions require less emotional effort. You are not overthinking your steps. You are not scanning your environment for hidden motives. You are not preparing defenses for threats that no longer exist. This simplicity is not loss of awareness. It is freedom from unnecessary vigilance. For a long time, your spirit was carrying weight it never asked for. The weight of sensing something wrong without proof. The weight of being alert without knowing why. The weight of subtle resistance that made progress feel heavier than it should have been. You adapted, because that is what resilient people do. But adaptation is not the same as peace. Peace is what is returning now. And peace has a soundless power. When peace settles, it begins to rearrange your inner priorities. You no longer rush to explain yourself. You no longer feel the need to justify your boundaries. You no longer apologize for choosing calm over chaos. This is not detachment. This is self-respect restored. God does this intentionally. He does not simply remove what harms you, He restores your authority over your own emotional space. Authority means you decide what deserves your energy and what does not. And right now, your spirit is choosing wisely without effort. There is something important you must understand about what just ended. Interference often disguises itself as coincidence, as misunderstanding, as bad timing. But when interference leaves, alignment does not announce itself loudly. It reveals itself through ease. Through things moving when they used to stall. Through clarity arriving where there used to be fog. Through relief that arrives without explanation. This is the confirmation. You are not imagining this shift. You are recognizing it. Your body is recognizing it. Your breath deepens without you trying. Your sleep becomes less fragmented. Your thoughts lose their edge. These are not emotional reactions, they are physiological responses to safety. Safety has returned. And safety allows growth to resume naturally. God is not rushing you into anything next. He is inviting you to occupy your life fully again. To enjoy what you were already building. To focus on what brings you joy without scanning for sabotage. To invest energy forward instead of guarding it sideways. You may feel drawn to reorganize your space, your schedule, your priorities. This is not distraction. This is instinct. When obstruction leaves, the soul prepares for expansion. It clears what no longer fits. It simplifies what was cluttered by stress. It makes room without forcing outcomes. Honor that instinct. You are not required to know what comes next in detail. You are only required to be available. Available to peace. Available to growth. Available to opportunities that no longer feel heavy when they arrive. God does not replace interference with confusion. He replaces it with direction. Direction does not shout. Direction aligns. You will notice that certain paths no longer appeal to you. Certain conversations feel unnecessary. Certain dynamics feel outdated. This is not loss. This is discernment maturing. You are not withdrawing from life, you are stepping into a cleaner version of it. Jesus often healed people and then told them to go and live. Not to analyze the healing. Not to retell the story endlessly. But to live from the wholeness they had received. That instruction applies here. Go and live. Live without retelling what hurt you. Live without checking whether danger might return. Live without carrying lessons as burdens. You learned what you needed to learn. The lesson was not to distrust people. The lesson was to trust discernment without fear. That difference matters. Fear sharpens the wrong edges. Discernment sharpens clarity. You are operating from clarity now. There is also something subtle happening that you may not have named yet. Your confidence is returning without aggression. You are not trying to prove strength. You are simply standing in it. This kind of confidence does not seek validation. It attracts respect naturally. Others may respond to you differently without knowing why. Not because you changed dramatically, but because you are no longer carrying tension that invited interference. Calm authority shifts how people engage with you. This is protection that lasts. God does not intend for you to live alert forever. He intends for you to live fruitful. Fruitfulness requires peace. Creativity requires peace. Expansion requires peace. And peace is now the environment you are meant to grow in. If there is one thing you must not do now, it is this: do not define your future through what was stopped. Your future is not the life where that didn't happen. Your future is the life that moves freely now. Those are very different stories. Do not make her collapse a chapter you revisit. Make it a door you walked through and closed behind you without ceremony. Your life is not shaped by what tried to harm you, it is shaped by what you choose to build now that you are free. God has given you back forward momentum. Use it gently. There is no rush. There is no threat. There is no competition. What belongs to you will meet you without resistance. If you ever feel tempted to look back to confirm that everything is still okay, remember this: peace does not need monitoring. It needs presence. Stay present in your days, in your body, in your choices. That is how peace stays active. Jesus teaches that worry cannot add anything meaningful to a life already aligned. You are aligned. Let alignment do its work. This is not the calm before another storm. This is the calm after resolution. Storms end when authority intervenes correctly. Authority has intervened. The matter has been settled at its root. There is no unfinished business attached to you. You are free to plan. Free to rest. Free to grow. Heaven has not left you exposed. It has placed you back on your path, uninterrupted. Walk it without hesitation. Let this be the last time this story is spoken. Not because it was insignificant, but because it has completed its purpose. What remains now is a life lived without shadow. Stay grounded. Stay present. Stay forward-facing. This message is complete. Stay with me now as this truly final layer settles. Not to add drama. Not to reopen anything. But to anchor you permanently into peace. What you are standing in now is not aftermath. It is ownership. Ownership of your life. Ownership of your direction. Ownership of your energy. When God removes interference, He does not leave a person fragile. He leaves them strengthened without hardness. That is the state you are in now. You are not defensive. You are not alert. You are not scanning. You are simply present, and presence is the strongest position a person can occupy. For a long time, your intuition carried a quiet burden. You sensed something was off, but you refused to become suspicious. You felt resistance, but you chose not to become bitter. You noticed misalignment, but you stayed grounded instead of reactive. That choice mattered more than you know. Because heaven responds to how you carry pressure. You did not panic. You did not retaliate. You did not descend into fear. You stayed clean. And staying clean under pressure gives God full authority to act without contaminating you in the process. That is why when intervention came, it did not entangle you. It did not pull you into chaos. It simply removed what did not belong and left you standing intact. This is rare. Most people are rescued while being shaken. You were protected while being preserved. Now comes the quiet reward of that integrity. Your inner world is reorganizing itself around calm instead of vigilance. You are no longer asking, "What do I need to protect myself from?" You are asking, "What do I want to build next?" That shift marks the end of survival mode. Survival mode ends silently. One day you just realize you are breathing easier, thinking clearer, sleeping deeper. And you don't know why, until you remember that something heavy is no longer present. This is the sign that closure has fully integrated. There is no residue left behind for you to clean up. No emotional debt. No lingering lesson that needs to be replayed. Everything that needed to be understood has already settled into wisdom. Wisdom does not repeat itself loudly. It lives quietly in choices. From this point forward, you will notice that you respond differently to people and situations. Not colder, clearer.